When it comes to the big franchises that I report on and talk about on a consistent basis, the one that really hits home with me is, of course, The Lord of the Rings. Okay, since the beginning of the year, and I think even before that, like I've lost track of it. Okay, I have been immersed in Middle Earth. Okay, either watching the Hobbit films on the weekends, coverage of Lord of the Rings, or Lord of the Rings in general, culminating with this upcoming weekend that happens to coincide with my birthday. Happy birthday to me! I'm going to be watching the extended trilogy once again because it's the best, man. Okay, like I can even pull out stuff that I really like from The Hobbit. Shout out Thranduil, specifically Lee Pace plays a Stormer in that one. The same with Martin Freeman as Bilbo, and then Richard Armitage as Thorin. It's a shame about that whole dragon sickness stuff. It's like, if that was handled a little bit better, maybe the Hobbit films would be better. But then, of course, that wouldn't have allowed M4 to do his excellent edit and put all of that together in a 4-hour perfect cut of that trilogy. Trims out, imagine this, right? Like you've got a trilogy of films that are just about 9 hours with the extended cuts, okay? And then you cut it down to a nice, tight, concise 4 hours, and then you move up a trilogy that is, relatively speaking, about a 4, if we're being completely honest and we're being fair about it, and then you move it up to about a 7. That's a tremendous amount of work, and it's something that you're never ever gonna see. You remove more than 50% of the content, and then you just make it an absolute definitive objective upgrade of that quality. It's amazing. Okay, there's nothing else that I can think of that even comes close to that. But yeah, I do love me Lord of the Rings, and especially when it comes to the mythos and the Tolkien world building itself. Like, there are so many channels that are on YouTube. Okay, what is it? In Deep Geek. Shout out to him who does all of the lore videos for like the first and the second age. Like, I've been trying to fill in the gaps in my knowledge of this stuff, and it really makes me mad how we're quickly approaching a time where we're seeing a lot more, especially for mass media consumption, okay, in gaming and television and in film, where we're very quickly moving to a point where we're seeing more bad Lord of the Rings stuff than there's quality Lord of the Rings stuff. Because I'll take most of the Hobbit films. Okay, even though the extended editions, which it's kind of crazy, right? Because recently I watched the theatrical Hobbit for the first time, and it's outside of, I would say, probably the only extended version that is an improvement on the original is Battle of the Five Armies, which is obviously the worst. I think it's the worst, okay? But at least when it comes to the theatrical Hobbits, like, it cuts out a lot of that tonal inconsistency crap and a lot of the stupid, goofy slapstick garbage, which ruins an unexpected journey, and it definitely hampers Desolation of Smaug. But I will take the Hobbit movies because there is stuff that is genuinely excellent in there. Okay, like I said before, like Thranduil, I want to see more of that guy. Okay, I want to see more about the Greenwood becoming the Mirkwood, okay, his reign over that elven kingdom, but I also don't want it handled in today's day and age because we see the creators that are working on that. And yeah, my hot take that the Lord of the Rings trilogy was great in spite of Peter Jackson, because I've seen his other work, and his King Kong is not great at all. And all of the stuff that he prioritized, all of the slapstick bullshit that ends up dragging down the overall quality of The Hobbit, and also makes one of the plot lines in my favorite part of Lord of the Rings, I still think it's Two Towers, man. Like, all of that stuff with Treebeard, like, I like the end stuff, but a couple of those extended scenes, if we could do without those, that'd be fantastic. But Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, hear more from them, behind the scenes stuff. And it just so happens that, once again, everybody has said it before, and I'll say it again, Lord of the Rings was made at a perfect time. If it was 20 years later or 20 years earlier, it wouldn't be as great as it is. It wouldn't be that standalone masterwork of a cinema that is going to stand the test of time, and people are still going to be watching these 20 years on into the future, 30, 40, 50 years on into the future. Because some of the dumb stuff that they were saying about how Eowyn's character, it was treated better in the theatrical version because she wasn't lusting after Aragorn. It's like, oh my god, you're really stupid people. And then also wanting to put in Lady Lust into The Hobbit because Tolkien was missing, female characters, and then I wanted to put in a strong female protagonist, and then immediately putting her into a love triangle. All of that is so silly. It's all very silly, but yeah, it's still like the Hobbit movies. They're fine. Okay, they're fine. Some of it's good. Still, a lot of it's bad. But I will take that, especially to bolster the claim that there is still some greatness that's out there. There's obviously the trilogy that is a 10 on 10. It's a masterwork. I have some issues with it, but still, on my scale, a 10 out of 10 isn't perfect. It's a masterpiece, okay? And then, of course, you know, when it comes to the actual source material, the writings, like the more I learn about it and the more I understand it, the more it's like super fantastic stuff that is never, ever, ever going to be eclipsed, especially by some fat cantankerous hack that just, you know, doesn't want to go to his writing cabin and instead just wants to, you know, put his name on a bunch of adaptive work that he can later bitch about. But I digress. Like, even when it comes to video game adaptations, like, I've talked about it before, and I've really got to emulate it because there's no other way for me to specifically play. And I think I even have the copy of it, but the Lord of the Rings tie-in games, okay, like Two Towers, I think I played a couple of times, but I'm very familiar with The Return of the King. It was fantastic. I think that was made by EA even. It's like, you know, even EA back in the cut is like, you know, that Lord of the Rings thing, we should probably do well by making just one of the best movie tie-in games of all time, right up there with, you know, Spider-Man 2 on the PS2. When you take a look at all of the good Lord of the Rings games, and I've really, okay, the more I also find out about this Third Age game, the more I got to go back and play it. I remember it at video game rental stores a lot, and I thought, you know what, that box art looks really cool. It's just, there's always something else that I would rather play at the time. But, you know, just knowing that it's a JRPG, turn-based battle mechanics in the Lord of the Rings following along the Fellowship, it's like, that looks cool as hell. Got to go back and play that at some point in time. But then, yeah, you take a look at most of the stuff, and especially the plot around the Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor games. And yeah, the Nemesis system is pretty cool, but the plot is absolutely insane. And then, of course, do we even need to bring up Lord of Ring Gollum? Exactly. And now you've got this Tales of the Shire mobile game, diverse Hobbit bullshit made by a bunch of ideologues. And it's like, why do you have to keep doing this to stuff, man? Okay, you don't have to. The Tolkien estate, like, guys, you're going to be making money in perpetuity forever. Why do you have to? Why do you have to ruin your grandfather's legacy like this? It's just ugh. But anyways, Tales of the Shire hit with another delay because yeah, we talked about this before, and it's like nobody wants this game. Okay, and it ended up getting pushed back, and it was supposed to be released, I think, by this point in time. But now, yeah, it's just getting kicked down the road a little bit. I think July is a release date. So Weta Workshop, yeah, and the fact that, oh my god, like, oh, the people that were behind the digital effects and the practical effects, okay, so like, it sucks, man, because some of those, like, as bad as some of the CGI is in The Hobbit, or at least unbelievable, like, it still looks good, okay, like, it's competently done. It's just, you know, the cut and paste of all of the elves of the Battle of the Five Armies. It's like, it looks good, but it also looks very fake. But then even just going back to Lord of the Rings proper, okay, like the trilogy itself, like all of that practical work, you know, the Helm's Deep itself, all of those bigatures, like that shit is going to look fantastic forever. The design of the orcs, the practical makeup, the CGI that is used to properly accentuate this stuff as opposed to just supplementing the makeup and the practical effect. Oh man, like Weta Workshop and Weta Digital, okay, they were cutting edge and they broke it. Like Gollum, the way that he pisses me off that they're attached to this. But anyways, just announced their upcoming Cozy Life Simulator. Yes, sure. Tales of the Shire has been further delayed into mid-2025. Aw, shucks. The Lord of the Rings themed game joins an ever-growing list of titles failing to make their initial release dates. Yeah, this also ties into just the overall health of gaming because it's Lord of the Rings, man, but this is a franchise. Okay, this is a title that used to carry something. It is the quintessential fantasy IP. And how have I gone this far not mentioning Rings of Power? Oh, right, because it's not Lord of the Rings. In a post on X, the developers released a statement outlining that the game needs some more time in the development cycle to launch to its full potential. Bro, we've seen gameplay of this stuff, and it's just, like, it's a mobile game. What the fuck are you wasting your time on? Tales of the Shire needs a bit more time simmering, said the post before confirming its new release date is July 29th. With that, the developers also provided an image with a more thorough explanation of the decision. We're taking a little bit longer to ensure that every Hobbit on every platform can enjoy this cozy experience. Yeah, you're wasting time, okay? But then also, okay, this additional amount of time lets people do, a little bit of digging looking to see who's working on this stuff. Like, why does something that looks like this, that looks like it could run an old T84 graphing calculator, like, yo, man, why is this thing getting delayed so much? Why do you need an additional, 4 months of development for a game where you cook as hobbits? Like, what are you doing, man? Well, shout out J.R.R, who did a little bit of digging and found out that Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game, you keep that name out your mouth, lead producer, calls DEI agenda throughout the video game industry a conspiracy. Oh, so she's an idiot. No wonder this is taking so long, because you have dribbling retards working on the project. That makes sense. Calliope Ryder, I beg your pardon? The lead producer on Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game, claims the DEI agenda that has taken over numerous video game developers is a conspiracy. Uncovered by YouTuber J.R.R, a writer posted back in September of 2024 to X. I promise I never received a message from a higher up that said needs more diversity so we can get government funding. Well, what projects have you worked on before, stupid? Okay. The fact that you know that all of this funding is coming from the government, and then especially back, this was prior to Elon Musk and Doge blowing the lid off of the U.S. AIDS program. Very telling. Very telling. She added, it's just that games are made by and for a wide range of people with varying experiences. There's no scary cabal forcing devs to add women and POCs to games. Well, yeah, that's partially true, right? Because there's a wide range of games for a wide range of people. And also, at the same time, all of these diversity consultancy groups like your Sweet Baby Inks, Black Girl Gamers, Hit Detection, whatever one you want to point to, whatever one is ruining your favorite franchises, they aren't coming in and strong-arming any companies. And if they are, they get called out like Game Science, Black Myth Wukong's developer. Shout out to them, telling Sweet Baby Inc. to take your $7 million and, tell your story, walk, and we ain't going to bow to your, blackmailing extortion attempt. It's just these development companies, they want all of this stuff. These developers, they're idiots. They're dyed-in-the-wall ideologues. They're the ones that need big daddy government. They're the ones that need all of these ESG dollars to come in because they are uniquely untalented and their work couldn't survive on its own without outside subsidy. Because we see what happens. The Dragon Age, the Veilguard, Star Wars Outlaws. Hell, Avowed right now. The list goes on and on. We can list examples until we're blue in the face. These initiatives and these wide-ranging modern audience people don't buy the fucking game. Big shock, right? Ryder followed that up, writing, like reading these conspiracies online about how this industry work is wild. There's no evil corp working on erasing white men from games. Well, you're right. Again, it's just ideologically driven developers. It's your marketing departments that whenever you're doing, whenever you have a create a character, you've got, self-insert characters that you have there, they always happen. You say that diversity and representation is at the forefront of whenever you want to develop something, but then also you don't want to represent the biggest demographic of gamers that's out there. It's very odd. It's very odd. Next wrote, adding, I don't think these people understand that there's a very broad market of gamers. Right, yeah, there's a lot of people that play on phones. These games that you're making should be on phones, but also shouldn't be taking this long and also leveraging an IP that women, there are fans of Lord of the Rings, but in general, that's not the biggest demographic of fans. It's apparently also, and again, just throwing your own logic back in your face, it's a fandom, it's an IP that is very, very light on female representation. So much so with the most recent, filmic adaptation in War of the Rohirrim, they had to invent a female character that only had, one passing reference in a really cool story, make it all about her, and then have it go to digital in record time. Fuck that movie, man. That's such a... Helm Hammerhand's story is so awesome, and then they ruined it. Anyways, games are designed by the community that made them, but also by the market that will buy them. Yeah, no, exactly. Can't wait to see the numbers on this game if it eventually does get released. Yeah, and as noted by Dark, the Norwegian Film Institute and European Union provided funds for Dustborn. Yeah, exactly. That's just one of many examples. And lo and behold, the Norwegian Film Institute announced it had a 5-year diversity plan back in 2019, where the CEO said gender balance and broader representation are of the utmost importance for a democracy and freedom of speech perspective. This applies to the entire value chain for who creators of the stories are and whom the stories are about, who sees and experiences these stories. Norwegian film industry must be able to change and renew itself as a society we all are part of is changing. Yeah, exactly. And you could just go like the CD Projekt Red doing the entire, hi, we have an ESG policy that is here. We hire women and give them menstruation leave every month if they would like to have it. We are working for parity. Or you can go over to Ubisoft doing the exact same thing with all of their gender specific apprenticeship programs. Like, the list goes on and on. She's just a liar. And that's why I never take these people at face value. You have to disregard what they say and watch what they do. And in the case of J.R.R. bringing this stuff to light, oopsie daisy, she ends up getting blocked by the tails of the Shire account because, oh, she might be flowing a little bit too close to the sun. And yeah, blocked for bringing up the lead producer, Mox Gamers. And once again, we have Marek Timoninski, who I don't necessarily know, man, like, he's really going to have to show. For as much as I say, don't listen to these people, watch what they do, Marek, he's been talking some shit, okay? Like, he's the CEO of CI Games, you know, the masterminds behind the Lords of the Fallen games, which aren't necessarily all that great. And, you know, he's really been talking a big game since the turn of the year. And yeah, he's been on top of a lot of this stuff, but everything that he's been putting out has been very much geared toward engagement, very much clicking all the buzzwords. So yeah, he's talking a good game right now. I just want to see when the rubber hits the road, when there's actually time to make all of these proper decisions, if he follows through on not including pronouns, on not relying on DEI initiatives to fill out a game and a development studio. I want to see, you know, if he walks the talk, or if this is just simply public relations in order to make him and his company look good. But games focusing on DEI will get serious pushback from gamers and creators. Yeah, and as somebody who has been very much immersed in social media ever since this stuff started to pop up, yeah, he notices this stuff as well, which is why I'm a little bit skeptical, okay? I don't want to say he's a fraud. I don't want to say he's a phony. It's just he hasn't been able to really back this stuff up, okay? But he's been consistent in his messaging so far. If government funding is more important than making a game players actually enjoy, go for it. But make sure you have the funding for your next project, because yep, you've seen whenever these projects, okay, whenever these studios really start to double down on this stuff, you start to really see what ends up happening in the long term. You'll be able to put out your one project, but like Dragon Age the Veilguard, just like Avowed, like Star Wars Outlaws, which is a little bit different because it's not so much woke as it is just a girl boss fantasy. You can continue to try to push whatever narrative you want. It's just, what are you going to do after that? And we've seen it, and well, you can lie about it as much as you want. As I've said before, and I'll continue to say again, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. So yeah, release Tales of the Shire. Put it out there to the public in July of this year, and we'll see how many people, for your modern audience, for the wide swath of gamers you're making this for, how many people turn out to support your project. But hey, at least you'll go down swinging with a clear conscience that you did this for the right people. Chuds and bigots be damned. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.